I'm Kristen.
And I'm Maddie. We're sisters and heavy readers. Join us every single week to talk stories, interview authors, and collab with fellow book nerds.
Welcome to the Kristen Mad Show.
Welcome to the show, you guys. Today we are so excited, thrilled, elated, gobsmacked that Laura Steven is here to join us on the eve of her adult fantasy debut, Silvercloak. She's already a #1 New York Times and Indie and USA Today bestseller. And she also was awarded the Comedy in Women Print Award. So she's basically already legendary. But here we go. We absolutely loved Our Infinite Fates. It is currently Kristen's book of 2025. So we could not be more thrilled to be talking to you today. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, all your love that you gave for Our Infinite Fates made me so, so happy. And I just hope you guys love Silvercloak too, because I know you love your adult fantasy, and I'm just so hyped. Oh, look, you have the B&N special.
Oh, we have several editions, actually. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's like the one book that I'm like, I don't care what country I'm in and what language it's in. If it's a different cover and it's cute, I'm buying it because I need like a shelf of Our Infinite Fates. It's embarrassing, guys.
Kristen, we were in Italy in April with several of the girls in our book club. We went together and they all were like messaging us at the hotel, like, Kristen, 2 blocks down, 2 blocks over, the bookshop has Our Infinite Fates in Italian and it has illustrations. And Chris was like, I'm coming.
It's insane. The Italian edition, someone showed it to me at a signing, and I didn't have it like on my own shelf yet, and I was like, wait, what are these illustrations? These are so beautiful.
Oh, they were so stunning.
And
I was just like,
I display them and also like frame them. They're so wonderful. So anybody who has been on our channel at all knows how much I love Our Infinite Fates, but I'm freaking out because you are sending us the UK editions of your newest book, which comes out on July 29th.
oh my gosh, it's so stunning.
It's so beautiful. 2 of these just were mailed to you today. So
I'm so excited. And this is adult fantasy, which is way more what we read together. So we really want to talk to you about your new book today. We want to talk to you about writing, what you like to read, but first, we're going to start off in Kristen Mad style with a 2 truths and a lie game where we try to guess which is the lie. Okay? Are you ready?
Okay. Yes. 2 truths and a lie. Okay. Number 1, I'm a huge Pokemon nerd and I have a very large Pikachu tattoo on my thigh. Number 2, I once went skydiving, even though I'm afraid of heights and flying, just that I could write about it. And number 3, I play competitive chess at a club that's just basically me and 60 old men.
I'm obsessed with all of these.
I want them all to be true. Skydiving, just to be able to write about it, is wild. If that is true, that is commitment at another level.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have that in me.
But I feel like you do give like code, like nerd coded a little bit.
Oh.
Like I kind of feel like I could see the Pokemon thing and the chess thing.
I feel like the chess is true.
I feel like the chess is true too, because like, I don't know, a little bit of the old soul in your books. Maybe you got some inspiration from your chess friends. Okay, which one are you going to say is the lie?
Skydiving.
Okay, we're going with skydiving. We're trusting Maddie.
So chess was true. The skydiving was true.
What?
I am a big Pokemon nerd, but I have a Charizard tattoo on my thigh, not Pikachu. So it was
true. She like buried the lie in a bunch of truth. Wow. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Chess Club with all of your grandpas.
I have always loved chess. I've always been good at it, and it got to the point where none of the people like in my real life would play me anymore because it was just sort of like slightly degrading for them. So I like just Googled local chess clubs and I went along and did you watch the show The Queen's Gambit?
Yes, obsessed.
So that was set in the 60s. It's exactly the same. Like I walked in and there were like 60 old men in the room, and the one who like ran the show came up to me and I was like, I want to join the club. Like, can I have a game? And he was like, the other woman isn't here tonight, but maybe you could play a child.
Wow.
Like, no, I think I'll be okay to play the adults. Thank you. I won.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, of course you did. Both of my kids are 6 and 8. years
Yeah.
old, and they are both in chess club at school and love it. And Kristen's kids did chess club, and my husband is one of the coaches. So I need to brush up my skills or they're going to be beating me soon.
I love this. My dad never let me win at chess. Like when I started to beat him, like I earned that. And I'm doing the same with my kids. So my kid's 5. He's only just kind of getting it, and he's just started chess club as well. This is getting way off topic, but I think it's really important to teach kids how to lose,
Yeah.
and how to like earn victory. So yeah, big chess household.
Oh my gosh, like we couldn't love you anymore.
Literally, like, I love that you said that because so true. Like, just teaching the etiquette of gameplay and that the point of the game is to be asked to play again. And the point of play is to always have people to play with. It's not to win and it's to be a good loser. It's like so important.
And I think to just like not internalize the losses, like I think that sets you up for life so well. Like, and I think my career, we'll get into this, has been so up and down, and having that kind of resilience and being able to take a loss without like letting it really get to you, I think is a skill that you learn in childhood, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, Laura. Tell us about skydiving really
Yeah, I
quick.
know. Like that's wild. I haven't gotten past that.
Did you pee your pants a little bit?
I was so scared. I can't actually describe how scared I was, but I worked for a lifestyle magazine. I trained as a journalist. I worked at a lifestyle magazine, and we had this segment. It was like a regional magazine. Like, I mean, the editor treated it like it was Vogue, but it wasn't Vogue. And the segment was like we each had to do something each month to like push ourselves out of our comfort zones. And it just turned out to be me every single time. It was me doing stupid stuff. I was the only one pitching stuff. And I was like, oh, so it would be funny if someone did skydiving. I don't want to because flying, heights. And we had this like sponsor who was like, yeah, we really want you to send one of your writers. And everyone else said no. And I was just kind of like, do it for the story. Do it for the story. Do it once, you can talk about it forever. Don't do it. It's as horrible as you think it's going to be.
No, it's like such a hard pass for me. I will say, like, maybe if I was like in a movie and they were like, we need you to do this as a stunt because I'm like a huge, huge person, I would do it. But since I am not her, it's going to be a no for me. It's
Yeah.
a no. You couldn't pay me enough.
Yeah. I agree. I think I'm one of those people that's like, if I was gonna like get my skydiving license, then I would just do it and know that like I'm just gonna do this until it's not scary anymore. Then I would like commit to the bit. But I think just for like the once in a lifetime terror of it, it's a no-go for me.
It was so bad. And like I arrived at the skydiving center and they were like, "Oh, the weather's so bad, we don't know if we can do it today." So we kept getting like suited up, and then like these gales would start blowing and they're like, "No, false alarm." And I'm like, even if the gales like die off a bit, I'm still not like the sea is right there. I do not want to land in that ocean. Like
No,
I don't want to
thank
be blown
you.
off course.
Oh my God. And you still did it. When was this?
This was 2014, I want to
Wow.
say. Yeah.
Dang. You know what's crazy? That's more than a decade ago.
I don't want to talk about it.
It really upsets me. It really, it really
Yeah,
upsets
it's starting to freak me out. Let's talk a little bit about your lore. So,
Yeah.
where did your writing journey start? And as you started writing books, what did that look like in your life? Were you working? Were you doing it full time? Just tell us all the lore.
Okay, buckle up. Like, do you have like 3 hours? Because there's a lot of
We're
lore.
ready. We're ready.
Okay, so classic like bookish kid as a child. I was like Matilda. I was at the library every weekend. I had very nice parents, but I checked out like the maximum amount of books. I was obsessed. I like wrote little stories all the time in school. Always got told off for it because I wasn't concentrating. My head was in the clouds. And then I think like when you become a teenager, you become so much more self-aware. And particularly like I was a 90s kid, liking fantasy was not cool then. And I became very aware that the other kids in my school, like they weren't reading 10 books a week and they weren't thinking about dragons all that much. And so I was kind of like, okay, we need to, if we want to have a sort of like, I was not popular, but if we want to not be bullied, then we need to stop doing this. And so I think as well, like the academic pressures really start to get to you. I did English to quite a high level. And so when you're always reading like classics and writing these detailed essays about them, it kind of takes some of the love out of it a little bit. So then I went to university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did like a basic business and economics degree, like the first year of it anyway. And I remember sitting in an accountancy lecture and just being like, this isn't for me either. No. Where are the dragons? Can we bring back the dragons? Like, I've taken some wrong steps. And so I changed to a journalism, I guess, major that you guys would call it. We don't have that here, but it was a really bad time for newspapers and magazines. This was like, I started in 2010, and basically most publications were either fighting for their life or they had sank already. So I managed to get a job at this lifestyle magazine, and I quickly was like, this is just not as creative as I thought it was going to be. It was a lot of interviewing other people who were doing cool things and writing about it, but I didn't feel like I was doing the thing myself. I was just watching and writing about other people doing it. And then I had my graduation, and there's an author who's from Glasgow, in Scotland, and she was receiving her Doctor of Letters, and she gave this amazing speech on how anyone can be a writer. There's like no barrier to entry as long as you have an imagination and a pen and a piece of paper or a laptop. Like, anyone can be a writer. And I came from a really small town in the north of England, and it sounds so stupid, but I was like, of course she's right. Why has this not occurred to me before? I did this whole writing degree. It never occurred to me that I could be the kind of person that wrote a book, let alone get it published. And so the next day I started writing my first book. Just dove straight in. So that was 2013. And that somehow got me an agent at a really big agency in the US. We actually sold that book to HarperCollins, for the dizzying advance of $0. And I remember thinking, like, I feel like I've done something wrong, because I swear, you know that like meme that's like, you guys are getting paid? Like,
Yes.
No.
yeah. So we did 2 books with them. It was under a completely different name. Those were both adult thrillers. They weren't fantasy. They did horribly. Like, they did very bad on account of being very bad books. Like, I don't know how they were published. And then, I wrote another thriller that didn't sell, and then I wrote a YA fantasy, because by now I was like, okay, we really need to bring the dragons back into play here.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we've built some skill. We know what we're doing. We can build a world now. That didn't sell. And then I had like a break for a while, and I was watching a lot of like Parks and Recreation. I was listening to a lot of audiobooks from like funny female comedians like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Mindy Kaling. And I woke up one day and I had the voice for this like really funny teenage girl like in my head. And I like pulled out my phone and I just started typing what she was saying to me. And to this day, those like words that I typed on that, in my bed still, they're still the opening lines of The Exact Opposite of Okay. That's what my like real debut was called. So I'm not going to deep dive into all the books between now and then, but I did a few more comedy books. I did some middle grade like contemporary fantasy comedy IP stuff under a different name. And then the pandemic hit, and I had a baby 2 weeks before lockdown.
Oh my God.
No way.
Yeah, and my husband had to isolate away from us for like a really long time, because
No.
he was part of the COVID response. And suddenly I was like, oh my God. And I was contracted for another comedy novel. And I wrote to my editor at the time, and I was like, okay, nothing feels funny. What if we did horror instead?
Yes.
She's like, okay, we're done 5 books together at that point. She's like, sure, I trust you. Just do it. So I kind of pivoted. I did a book called The Society for Soulless Girls, and I did a book called Every Exquisite Thing, which were like sapphic dark academia horror novels. And they kind of like changed things for me a little bit. Things weren't going amazingly with the other books, because that's when I started posting about them on TikTok. TikTok changed the game.
Yeah.
And then so they were books 8 and 9. I had a lot of other projects in the pandemic. I wrote 2 books. I wrote an adult speculative novel, which I still think is the best thing I've ever written. I wrote it with my like newborn baby here, and I wrote it like on my phone with my thumb.
Oh my gosh.
And that didn't sell on submission. That has a happy ending now. I can't talk about it yet, but and I also did like a middle grade fantasy, and that didn't sell because it was a very difficult time for fantasy. And I remember when that happened, I remember thinking like, okay, I don't know how many times I can keep throwing myself at this brick wall and like expecting it to break. Like, I didn't know how many books I had left in me before I was like, okay, maybe I peaked when I was 24 and maybe it's time for me to do something else. But that last chance book was Our Infinite Fates, and it changed everything.
I love when you hear the story of like there's successes and then there's not, and then there's successes and then you question yourself. And it's like nobody's story goes like this, right? Like there's just so many moments where you're like, it's time to pivot, it's time to be creative. I had no idea that you had so much like thriller horror.
It's so funny. I think like it's that old cliche of like it takes 10 years to make an overnight success. I think I like dropped onto a lot of people's radars when I hit that number one on the NYT with Our Infinite Fates, and it seemed like I come from nowhere, but I'm like, I've been here for 12 years, like trying to do this.
I've just been over here hanging out, been here the whole time.
I love that though, because it shows, at least in Our Infinite Fates, now I'm like, I have to read your backlist and find out all of your hidden secret names. But I feel like when I read that book, I was like, holy shit. Like this person has been writing books and I have not been in it. Like I felt like I wasn't in the know because it didn't feel like it wasn't giving debut novel at all. It's just such
Thank you.
amazing, beautiful writing, which makes me very excited to see what else you bring into the world. So I'm sure you have this new like deep seated confidence from being like, yeah, that's right. I am an amazing writer and I can write New York Times bestsellers. So like you're bringing that into your writing now, which is awesome.
It does. It gives you a level of confidence. And I remember when I was sitting down to write Our Infinite Fates, and I'd had the idea in 2017. So it took, and I didn't write it until 2022. And so it took me a really long time to find my way into the story. And an author friend who broke out on her 8th book. So it was really like useful for me to hear some of her advice. She said this thing to me that I really think changed my life. And it was, how would you write the book if you knew it wouldn't fail?
Oh,
Like, what risks would you take, like with the storytelling? Like how much more ambitious would you be? And I think I would have found a sort of safer, more commercial way to tell the story if it hadn't been for that.
yeah.
And so I'm grateful to her and for my journey, for like making me feel like I can take bigger swings, you know.
Yeah.
And not getting paid $0 when your books are picked up either.
Yeah.
That must feel good, you know, to be like, yeah, I get paid for this. No big deal.
Yes, I should hope the advance for Our Infinite Fates was not
Oh
$0.
my gosh, that is just
I
wild.
I just was so delighted when okay. I think that there's this mismatch sometimes where, you can tell the publishers have really gambled on a story and, it gets put in book of the month box and it's on all the end caps in Barnes and Noble and it's, it gets a write up in several of the major newspapers and you can just tell there's been a push. They want to layer all of this marketing for people to know this big thing is coming. And then sometimes the book merits that and sometimes it really doesn't. And so we were just so delighted because we picked up Our Infinite Fates literally like the week before it blew up.
Mhm.
And Kristen was like, you have to read this immediately. Stop everything that you're reading. Go get it tonight and you're going to read it. And I was like, okay, okay. So we both read it in a weekend. We're both huge fans of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And so Kristen, she was like, this is the one. It's the one we've been waiting for. Go get it.
We've
So
been waiting,
yeah.
and
So
the
we went.
chosen one is
It was.
here.
So we read it, and then like immediately it blew up, and we were so excited. We are like, they put the money behind this
Yeah.
one, and it was worth it. It
God.
needed to be because it would just be so sad if it was just on one of the shelves back there when it is such a special book. Like, and it's
And
such
it's
a genre busting book too.
Yes.
it's so interesting that you have these like astute observations, because like behind the scenes, it sounds very naive of me, but because this is the first time that's happened for a book for me, that I've had this like level of publisher investment, I sort of didn't know what wasn't happening until it started happening, and I was like, oh, this is how books blow up. Like, they have the infrastructure. And I remember like it was the day before the UK release, and they had this is just one example, but my UK publisher had like organized a Zoom with all these booksellers from around the country, from Waterstones, for me to talk about the book and get them excited. I was like, this is the stuff that like wasn't happening for my other books. And you kind of internalize it and you think you're failing because it's something you haven't done, or you kind of think that, well, I had the power to move that needle so much and I just didn't do it. there's certain things that happen that once they start happening for you, you're like, oh, I
Oh,
get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point with the TikTok investment in books, I think that the combination of the traditional power of the investment combined with you get enough early adopters who do want to just keep talking about it because it's so good and then it has legs. Like then it can move forward. But I mean, I think Kristen and I learned a lot about it actually from an indie author who just knew the game really well. And even though he wasn't traditionally published, he knew that he would have to build that infrastructure before launch, and he did it. I mean, like he did it by himself. It was insane. But then his book launched onto like he had built the boat that could actually sail it out. And then yeah, now it's getting re-released by Del Rey. But yeah, like we learned all of that from an indie author. He just taught us the whole entire
It's so fun, like
method.
that background stuff that we have just never been a part of as we were just readers. And now that we work with so many authors, like literally our dream is getting to talk to authors. And when we hear like the power that the readers have, and that like our audiences or our friends who like to see what we're reading, that there's so much power in finding great stories. So I feel like me and Maddie are literally like constantly on the hunt. Like we will find the next book and thrust her forward into the future.
Yes.
It's so fun. It's like a light up moment. And we have to talk about Silvercloak. So inspired you to switch into an adult and to also do adult fantasy.
Yeah. Is this your very first adult fantasy novel or just your first traditionally published adult fantasy novel?
The first one that I've managed to get a publisher for, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there was the adult speculative project that I mentioned earlier that I wrote in 2020. There was another thing that never even made it to submission for various reasons. I've always wanted to be in the adult space, but for a long time the adult space didn't particularly want me. And I think like it's down to a lot of different reasons. I'm not being like, oh, poor me, I'm a victim. I just hadn't written the right book, you know? And I think you have to take ownership of that and be like, actually, if I had written something that was like good enough and commercial enough, it would have happened. And so I've always wanted to write adult fantasy. It's always been what I've read. Like even when I was a kid, I read adult fantasy. And so it's always been the thing that I really wanted to do. And so the timeline is kind of like 2023, early 2023, Our Infinite Fate sold, but I knew it wouldn't be published until 2025. And I didn't have a book like slated for 2024. So I was like, okay, I have a bit of wind behind my sails now. Like maybe if I wanted to try one more time in the adult fantasy space, now is the good time. There are a lot of publishers that wanted Our Infinite Fates that didn't win it. So like maybe even if, you know, like one of them might want something new. So I was working on this other adult fantasy project that I really, really liked. It wasn't like setting my world alight, but I was just like, this is the right time to write it. So we're just going to push through. And then I watched the movie The Departed with my husband. And if you're not familiar, it's like an undercover detective goes into the mafia to try and bring them down. And then when they get to the mafia, they realize the mafia has someone inside the detectives. And so there's this sort of like cat and mouse, you know, chase. Also some of the best sex scenes I've ever seen on TV, but never mind. My brain chemistry. And at the end of it, my husband, I had never seen it before. My husband was like, what do you think? And I really flippantly said, it would have been cooler if they had magic. And then I was like, hang on. It would have been cooler if they had magic. Okay, but if they had wands and cloaks and dragons and they were in like the detective academy was also magical, and what if it was this really debaucherous world that they had to police, like Sin City? What if magic was fueled by pleasure and pain? And it all just like, some books are a really slow marinating process. Like Our Infinite Fates took 5 years for me to find the right way into the story. Silvercloak dropped from the sky into my. And so I texted my agent and I was just like, what if The Departed had magic? And she was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you write a real pitch? And I was like, yes, I can. And so we dropped the other adult fantasy project. I was like 25K in. But I just had this huge gut feeling about Silvercloak because I read a lot of fantasy. I was like, I cannot remember ever reading like a plot like that in fantasy. And I was like, did I just invent something? So yeah, I had the best time writing it. And then in early 2024, is that the timeline? Yeah, in early 2024, we sold it to Del Rey.
Gosh, you
Love
have to
it.
be so patient. You like create these little book babies, and then you're like, in 2 years, I'll find out how people feel about it.
It's literally like telling a joke and then waiting 2 years to see if people will laugh. Like, it's so agonizing.
Oh my gosh, what torture.
So is there romance in Silvercloak? Is it romantasy or is it fantasy with there's some romance in it?
I would say it's epic fantasy with a heavy like romance subplot. And the way I kind of came at it was like I'm a big like I love romantasy and I love epic fantasy and I was like I want to kind of meet them in the middle. Like if there was a Venn diagram of the people who love Fourth Wing and a Venn diagram of the people who love like Mistborn, I want to kind of be in here. I want to take the world building really seriously, the character work really seriously, but I want a really hot romance.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my agent about baking a romance like into the plot. Like I wanted it to be hard to lift out and in the pitch. So basically, the detective has this prophecy that she's going to infiltrate the Blood Moons. She's gonna kiss and then kill the Kingpin's like tortured son, and she's gonna have to betray him. So that's really like baked in. It is the kind of story that if you slotted that out, it would still work. There's still like the fate of the world is at stake, you know. But for me, like I'm such a when I'm writing and when I'm reading, I'm so character driven first.
Mm.
And I think a romance helps you really get invested in the characters. And so it was really important. It's also a queer normative world. So everyone in this world is basically pansexual unless otherwise stated because of the way the magic system works. So, like, magic is fueled by pleasure and pain, and anyone can give anyone pleasure and pain. And so it's really baked into their society. And it's a very kind of like, it's a decadent world. It's kind of like very dangerous because of the way magic is born, but it's also very sexy. So I think there had to be romance. As soon as I came up with that seed of the magic system, I was like, well, you have to have a romance in there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate it because if you had just answered that there was no romance, I would have been, oh, because every story is enhanced with some romance, like at least some. That prologue, excuse me. I was like,
I'm
this
sorry.
book cannot come fast enough.
The tease of it. We were like, are they in the mail yet? Are they coming? I do have a quick question before we move away from this question of moving into the adult space, Laura, is what I guess stands out to you as the one liberation or challenge in moving from YA to adult? Like what was the major difference for you in writing a YA novel versus writing an adult fantasy novel?
I think it's such an interesting question, and it's something that I agonized about so much. And it wasn't as simple as, like, oh, well, there's spice, so it has to be adult. I think, like, adult characters, the things that concern them, the problems they face, have to also feel adult, even if they're in a fantasy world. But I think, like, what I found hard is I think you have to work harder to prove yourself as like worthy of writing adult when you've come from YA, because I think people come in with that kind of like cynicism almost, and they're almost waiting to like level that criticism at you of like, this reads like YA. And I think like I had to do a lot of soul searching on that and be like, actually, I don't know if that's necessarily a negative. I think what YA does very well is like immediacy. YA has to grab you so quickly because as a YA author, you're competing against Netflix, YouTube, TikTok for people's attention spans. And so if a book and a story and a character doesn't like grab you within the first few chapters, they're probably going to put that book down. So I think like YA also teaches you to pace really well. And so I was like, okay, I want to write adult fantasy and I still want to take my time on like the character development and the world building especially. And I want it to feel huge and epic and I want it to feel morally very complex, like less black and white than YA. But I was like, I still want to bring that pace and that immediacy that I like. I mean, a lot of people say Our Infinite Fates is slow. I'm like, okay, fine. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like that YA does tend to move a lot quicker. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why a lot of YA authors are making the jump to adult quite successfully, is because they've honed that skill set, that ability to like immediately grab you, and like transplanting it into adult, I think is like a killer combo for me. Like I love adult fantasy that moves slow. Like I love like, you know, Name of the Wind, I love Brando Sando, all of the stuff, but sometimes I also just love something that moves.
Oh my gosh, this is probably why I am feral for YA, is because I'm like, please just get me somewhere at some point. Like, I just can't be on these side quests for 1,000 years. And I know some people really love being steeped in a story and like they're just there to be in the magical world. But I personally am so drawn to YA or adult that have great pacing.
Mm.
Like that is just my book love language is some good old pacing.
I think something YA also does really well is it's very clear what a character's like goal and what the forward momentum is. I think YA is really good at establishing that. And sometimes when you are in these worlds that like you really sink into and they're so immersive, and I do love that, like when I'm in the right mood I do love that, but sometimes you're like, what is the character trying to achieve?
Right.
Like what is pushing them through the plot and pushing them through the world, and therefore what is pulling the reader too. And so again, it's like bringing that, even when the plot itself is not moving like this, you always have that goal in the front of your mind of like what the character is ultimately trying to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I think the marriage between the two would be so brilliant. It's like that's why we'll say things like we love to pick up a Blake Crouch when we've been in the midst of a really long, slower moving series, because like a Blake Crouch techno thriller is so unfocused on characters, so focused on plot that you'll get this like super plot driven, can't turn pages fast enough. And it's just like, it kind of just jolts you back awake. But I think then what I miss in thrillers, sometimes in YA, it depends on the author, but I'll miss that, what you just said, like that complexity of character moment. So if you could get that plot forward
Yeah.
focus w- while still having that time to sink really deep into a character psyche and have them feel really, really real to you as a 35-year-old reader, like that's the
Matters.
sweet spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think after reading the prologue, I'm like, okay, so if she can do our Infinite Fates and do this, she's my auto buy author. Like, I just love that feeling. You know, when I'm sure you have authors like that where you're just like, I just love the style. I feel like I have trust there. Will you tell us a little bit about like, we know you love to write, but what do you like to read? And like,
Mm.
what authors or books have really inspired your style?
I mean, okay, so I am basic in that I love like the obvious, like Brandon Sanderson for his fantasy, and I love Stephen King, you know, the big giants of the genre. I really love V.E. Schwab, of course. Anything V.E. Schwab writes, I will buy. I love Alex E. Harrow. I don't know if you've read her, but she wrote The 10,000 Doors of January, which is like one of my top 5 books of all time. It's like fantasy, but it's kind of grounded. She has this wit and this humor that I just eat up. She did Starling House, which was probably her most well-known one, and she has a book called The Everlasting coming out later in the year, and I sobbed so much. You're both parents, you will also sob so much. And she always takes like a narrative risk. There's always something a bit weird, a bit offbeat. There's either like footnotes or the structure of the story is just like slightly at a slant. She takes risks, and she writes about it on her Substack. She's like, I do the kind of stuff that loses you a full star on Goodreads, but like I'm doing it on purpose. And I feel so excited whenever I get a new one of her books. I'm like, what is she gonna do now? You know?
Ooh.
So that's in fantasy, and then I'm quite a like broad reader. I read a lot of thrillers, a lot of horror, like you say, that kind of like palette cleanser between big fantasy series. I love on the more like literary, speculative, upmarket, you know, vibe. I love Emily St. John Mandel, who did Station 11, who did Sea of Tranquility. I love her, and I love Sarah Maria Griffin writes this amazing like it's somewhere between like literary speculative with like horror, but if you like really deep character work, like really deep character work, but also just like prose that is unlike any other prose you've ever read in your life, Sarah Maria Griffin.
Ugh, okay, well, I'm checking her out after
I'm
this
like
immediately.
stressed that I can't be adding to my TBR right now. I'm
Like,
like, okay, I'm just gonna watch this back later
yeah.
and take the notes I need.
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
for those.
Who did you write Silvercloak for? I mean, you kind of said maybe the Venn diagram of the reader who likes Mistborn and Fourth Wing, but like when you were thinking of the person who would love this, did you write it for you? Did you write it for your younger self? Did you write it for a specific person?
It's so funny when you mention like my youngest self, because yes, this is an adult series and there is spice, but I recently got a compliment from a reader that I can't stop thinking about, and it was like, I haven't felt this obsessed with a book since I was a child. And I was like, that's the exact feeling that I wanted to evoke. And it's really difficult because I think the comparisons or the like allegations or whatever you want to call it, when I have wands and cloaks, people are always going to use the words Harry Potter. And my publicist's like, I think there's a sniper watching me right now, like, just stop. But I think it's like, I really wanted to write a world that made me feel the way I did when I was a child reading Harry Potter, but in a way that was very inclusive and welcoming for queer people. And the people that kind of feel betrayed by what's happened with Harry Potter, I wanted to give those people very specifically somewhere to go. And I think it would be like a lie to not say that. That's really and genuinely true. And yeah, it's like you say, it's the Venn diagram of like the fantasy reader, the romantasy reader, but also the thriller reader, because we have this like detective element. And I have a few friends that are like thriller authors, and they read it, you know, out of interest to see how I did it in a fantasy world. So yeah, it's the people who like still love the immediacy of YA and the fast pace, but who still love epic world building. And it's kind of a risk when you try and tick too many boxes like that, because then sometimes you're like, well, maybe you're falling short by some standards, you
Mm.
know, of those expectations. And I found this with Our Infinite Fates because it wasn't clearly any one genre. And I think like some readers who went in expecting just a romance were like, what are these last few chapters? Like, where are we? And then people who were expecting like a big fantasy epic were also like, oh, most of this is like grounded. So there is always that risk of like, okay, you're trying to do too many things, but I'm always going to write stories in a way that feels like really exciting to me. I love genre mashups. I love anything that like slips between the cracks of neat explanations. And so it's those readers, the readers that will get excited about something that's just like slightly outside of what they're expecting.
Right. Well, and
Oh, yay.
you've got all this momentum built now. I would say, like, because of TikTok, we both said to each other, like, we can't, it's rare to come across an author who is as present for fans on social media as you are.
Yeah, I was like blown away. I said,
Yeah.
go off, girl.
So I think that, well, I guess I'll just ask you, do you think that having a pulse on your audience that way gives you some insight as you're writing or influences you as you're writing to kind of know what risks you can take and what risks people want you to take and what we're crying out for? Like, I guess I feel like book talk, if any people will say like book talk's so saturated with these popular books or these favorite books. And I'm like, but actually that's super informative because we're all pretty aware of what's been done before. And we're all like starting to get our finger on what we're asking for.
Mm.
And if the authors are paying attention, it's like written right here for you. Like we want something else. So I don't know. Did that inform you at all?
It did. And sometimes when I say that, like other authors who sort of are very, you know, standoffish when it comes to TikTok are kind of like, oh, you mean like trope checklists? I'm like, no, that's not what I mean at all. I don't think books should be reduced to like a set of tropes just to try and sell them on social media. However, if you, I think this is maybe the first year of that business and economics degree coming back to me, but I've always been entrepreneurial. I'm like, we as authors have never had access before to such a vast amount of different readers, different voices, different preferences, where we can actually just sit and listen and be like, okay, instead of just being like begrudging a certain book taking off, be like, well, why did it take off? What spirit did it capture in that readership? What nostalgia did it tap into? Why, you know, why do people want that specific thing? And how can I bring that to my writing in a way that's not like, it's not a copycat, but it's like meeting that demand? And I think the other thing that I really used TikTok for was, I think a lot of authors when they get on TikTok start making content about what it's like to be an author, and I was like, I don't think that's interesting, frankly. I want to tell people about my books in a succinct and exciting way. And so every time, especially with Solace and Every Exquisite Thing, but I did it with Our Infinite Fates too, I was like, okay, imagine I've stepped into an elevator, and in that elevator is my ideal reader. We're not worrying about all the other ideal readers, you know, who are never going to like this book. The person I know will love this book is standing in that elevator, but I only have 10 seconds to convince them to buy this book and why they'll love it. And so I had these like documents of like one line pitches for all my books. And I think having that focus on like one line and being able to like sum up the premise that quickly, I'm like, not only is that helping, like, it's helping readers find it, they've got that direct line, but it helps on every level. And I've realized like Our Infinite Fates was the first book I did where I was like really obsessed with getting that one line pitch down.
Mm.
And it helped at every part of the process, not just on TikTok, because like suddenly booksellers know exactly how to sell that to a reader. They've only got 10 seconds to explain why something's great. And as soon as they use that one line, you know, that person's sold. And so it really forced me to be like, okay, before I sit down and write this idea, can I sum it up in one line? And yes, books can be more complex than that, but also I think like readers really want something that when you hear the hook, they're like, ooh, that feels different, that feels new. And you can see in real time how people are responding to your pitch. Like if I put up a video and I'm like, I didn't just use the pitch all the time. I would like describe a scenario, for example, that happened in the Society for Soulless Girls. There's a moment where like it's a sapphic relationship, very much enemies to lovers. Alice is in denial that she likes Lottie, but she goes to watch Lottie play hockey, and Lottie gets hit on the head, and Alice, before she knows what she's doing, is like running onto the pitch. And I wrote that before TikTok, but then I started talking about that moment on TikTok, and every time I did, it was like catnip. People are obsessed. People would pre-order. And so it gives you this like direct line into the kind of scenarios that people like, and like really forces you to be like, okay, in this book, what are like the big 3 or 4 like emotional moments that like would hook someone? And so I want to shake authors when they get kind of like cranky about TikTok. I'm like, do you understand the gift this is if you like are willing to learn and willing to use it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think it takes a certain amount of openness for an author. So you must be very open. It's like, I'm open to feedback. I'm open to learn, ask questions, be patient. I mean, it does take a certain amount of bravery, I think, to just sit in front of your phone and chat. But, enthusiasm has sold so much on planet
Mhm.
Earth. And I think good old enthusiasm, like, just always wins out. So I feel like that's what really comes through. Like, you're funny and you've got the lines, but like you can see it in your eyes that you're like, oh, I'm here and you're gonna hear me because I got something good to say.
I think, Laura, what you do that's so special, but also, I mean, I want to give you your kudos because I think it's special, but I also think it's just very simple. Is like, it's so simple to be like, look, I love my book or I wouldn't have written it. So I can share that enthusiasm with you. And I think what's so unfortunate is when artists of any kind are sort of forced into this like humility of like, I don't want to talk about myself or talk about myself too much. And so I don't want to like try to sell you on my thing. And I'm like, well, if not you, who? Like you should be the number one fan of the thing that you're putting into the world. Like you should be the first person in line to be like, I wanted this so bad and I'm so passionate about this and I love this so much that because it didn't exist, I had to build it. I had to bring it here for us all. And then I think the people who are like you, who are your kindred spirits, are going to be like, "Yep, I've been waiting for that too. I've been wanting that too. Thank you so much for making it for me. Pre-order." Like it's really just sharing your genuine love for the thing that you made, which I should just hope that makers love what they make. Like,
Exactly. And I think part of it is really cultural, and it took a little bit for me to get over that hurdle, because I'm from Northern England, and you never want to be doing anything that seems arrogant, that seems like bragging, that seems like you think a lot of yourself or your work. It's very like self-deprecating humor, and I still do that. I still, take the piss out of myself all the time, but it's like finding a way that can coexist, like you say, with like the enthusiasm. Like I was doing this for so long and barely making any money, and I still had that enthusiasm, and I think like people are still really reluctant to do it. And I think you can tell when an author's been told by like a marketing team or whatever, you need to make TikToks, because there's almost a level of apology to it. Like, I'm so sorry I have to be doing this, but there's that's the vibe. But when I look at all the creators like you guys, or even, I watch a lot of chess YouTube, and I watch a lot of running TikToks because I'm a runner. And when I look at those areas, I feel like, yes, people are not necessarily selling something in the same way, that an author is. But you can, like you say, like you can see when someone's eyes light up when they're talking about a subject that they're passionate about, when they're talking about this very specific chess opening that they've just learned, or when they're talking about a workout they've just done that they loved. And it's like, well, if they can talk about their areas of interest like that without feeling embarrassed, like why shouldn't I? What is different other than the fact that I have a product to sell, but I'm not linking it on my storefront or whatever. I'm just telling you about it, and you can decide what you do with it. And I
yeah.
think it's something that like, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
I just think it makes total sense for you to be your own biggest cheerleader. Like,
Yes.
I did,
Yes. We say we
like,
want people to be
y-
confident, but then we tell them to be humble. And I'm like, well, like, hold on here. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Okay. Like,
yes.
both can exist. You don't have to be like pompous and obsessed with yourself, but also you can be
Right.
your own hype person. And I love that. This representation, I am here for it. Are we going to get more books with Silvercloak? Like, are you writing more in this world?
Yeah, or is it a standalone? We should
We
clarify.
need to know.
This is a trilogy. I sold a trilogy. I just turned in book 2. She is chunky. I'm so proud of her. It's a trilogy to begin with. Let's just say I have plans. I have like, if the books aren't doing what I want them to do, I can get out at the end of the first trilogy, but I have plans way beyond that. I have a prequel outlined. I have a second trilogy outlined. Like, I'm in this world for the long run. I
Oh,
designed a world big enough. I don't know if you can see this. This is the map on the end papers.
so beautiful,
Stunning.
Laura.
I'm like, this is enough world for me to play in for a decade if I want to.
Did you work with an illustrator?
Yes. So, I mean, I've always been a map person. I was always that kid who was like drawing maps all the time, making up worlds all the time. I'm not a very gifted artist, unfortunately. So I drew obviously all the map. I had the best time naming everything in the world and stuff. And then my incredible publisher were like, "Who is your dream map illustrator?" And I told them, and they commissioned her. She's called Francesca Bayrold. And like, honestly, it's my favorite thing. We just bought a new house and I'm gonna have an office, and I'm like, I'm gonna get it blown up like this on the office wall. I'm obsessed.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
like bucket list item. Like, who's your
Literally.
dream map maker? Let's go get her for you. Amazing. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh,
god.
that's so exciting. So the trilogy then. Okay, did you feel any intimidation in writing a series? Because it sounds like your other books were all standalones.
No, so I actually, the exact opposite of Okay had a sequel, and then the middle grade, like, it was IP work basically. It was like contemporary fantasy with a lot of comedy in it, like specifically for that 9 to 12 age. That was a duology. It was going to be a trilogy, and then the pandemic happened and we dropped the third book. So I've always wanted this,
Okay.
like, yes, it's the first time I've actually had a publisher be like, yes, write those 3 books. But like, I've always wanted the long running series. I'm not the kind of writer that could ever write a short story, for example, because I just think large. I mean, even Our Infinite Fates, I'm like, let's make it last 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
you know, I've always wanted a huge canvas to play with. So to me, there's not really any intimidation. There's just like excitement. And I'm also like, I'm quite a rigorous outliner. So I don't have any like, oh God, I don't know where I'll go with book 3. Like, I know where I'm going with book
Oh my
3.
God.
Because
What a
we
comfort.
every now and then gripe on our podcast about series that we're just like, did they think this one through?
You know,
Did they know
I
where
think
this was
one of our dirtiest phrases is bridge book. Like, this is just a bridge book to get somewhere that they think they know they're going, but they didn't know what to do with this one. So it's just a bridge. Like, what is this?
You know what? I'm sure there's just so much pressure, right? Somebody offers you a lot of money and asks you to turn a duology into a trilogy or whatever. And it's like, well, it's exciting. And you're like, I could probably figure it out. But sometimes I personally feel like it comes off as like,
Like a
we're just
money
wasting
grab.
time.
I want to know that you have a 3-point outline that needs 3 books. And then I'm like, great, you've earned your pages. That's one of our phrases, like, earn your pages.
Like, my favorite thing to do is foreshadowing. I like, as a reader as well, when I can, like, if I go back and reread a series and in book 1 I see all the pipes that they laid for book 3, like, that just like scratches my itch so good. But you can't do that unless you know exactly where the book is going to end up, because that, how do you foreshadow something that you don't know?
Right.
And I remember when I got my first edit letter, and like when I sold the trilogy, so I had fully drafted the first book, but I had like quite a comprehensive outline for the next 2 books. And because my editors then knew what was going to happen in book 3, they were like commenting on the book 1 manuscript and these little throwaway lines. They were like, this is diabolical foreshadowing. Like, people are going to curse your name. And I'm like,
Just wait.
okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Did you have like an alpha reader list or a beta reader list? Did you like how has the publishing process gone? Did you have a lot of ARC readers?
Yes. So this is something that not a lot of authors I know do. But I have a few paid readers that aren't writers themselves. And I think sometimes when writers get a lot of feedback, they're mostly getting it from either other writers, or they're getting it from like industry professionals, like editors who are like professionally trained in story structure and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's great. We need that. We 100% need that kind of like rigorous editing. But we also need readers who are just readers, not writers, who can just tell you where things are landing, like give you live reactions to certain scenes, and you can see whether the big moments that you wanted to land are landing in the way that you wanted them to.
Mm.
And then just having someone just be like, oh, blah, 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 these are all my thoughts and feelings. So that's been a part of my process now since Our Infinite Fates, and I'm looking to expand it a bit more. I currently have 3 paid readers, but I'm going to expand it a bit more just because it's been so valuable to me. In fact, I actually I interviewed Brandon Sanderson for Publishers Weekly like 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was when Rhythm of War was coming out. And he says that he actually has this like Google document with 50 readers reading live and leaving comments as they read, so he can see exactly where there's like, okay, there's loads of comments around that chapter, whereas this one, no one's really said anything, maybe it's not doing anything. And that made me see everything very differently. I was just like, that's so obvious and intuitive. And so I'm trying to like build that infrastructure for my books. I never want to get to that point. I think like some authors will reach a certain level and be like, I don't want to be edited anymore, the books are the books, you can just print them. And I'm like, no, I always want that friction, I always want that pushback, I always want to be challenged. Like, you want to put out the best book possible, right?
Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
this, Laura. I volunteer as tribute
I know
if you need more paid readers.
you need
I'm
more.
sorry, you're building your infrastructure. Can we volunteer?
Yes,
We volunteer
100.
as tribute.
Okay, actually, are you doing a tour for Silvercloak in the UK and or the US? Because we want to know.
So yeah, I'm currently in a hotel room. My UK tour starts tomorrow. For Silvercloak, I'm doing 5 stops. I've toured a lot this year, both for Our Infinite Fates and Silvercloak. Like by the end of the year, I'll have done 10 different countries. So
Wow.
but sadly, I'm not coming to the US this time.
Oh,
I know I came to New York for Our Infinite Fates, and I really want to come back next year, but it didn't work out this year.
oh.
But I'm coming to Guadalajara Book Fair in November. So I am flying across the Atlantic, just not to see you guys.
We could come to you. We just have to figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's so exciting. I'm excited for your tour, and I hope you have a lot of pinch me moments that you'll like never forget, and you'll, feel all the warm fuzzies for your work.
Talk about the fan base, your TikTok followers, your readers, and like what they mean to you.
It's been something. I just came back from a book festival in northern Spain, which was it was incredible. It's like the best festival I've ever been to. It was like this whole Spanish town turned into like a festival for the whole week, and they had some huge names like Brandon was there, Jay Kristoff was there, Joe Abercrombie was there, and it was like the most electric atmosphere ever. And like before I was going, I was like, oh, I've got like so many flights to get there because there were no direct flights. And I was just feeling a bit like exhausted. And then as soon as I got there, it was like, this is why we do it. Not necessarily for like the applause of being on stage or anything like that, but just I've always wanted like not just to write, but to be read, because I think that's where the magic is, in that connection like you make with another person. And ever since I was like, okay, so I nearly got suspended in school when I was 9 years old because my friend and we were writing a story, like a serialized story on the school computers, and we were printing out each chapter and we were selling each chapter, which you were just super not meant to do in school. But I just remember the feeling of like sitting in the lunch hall and people coming up to you and being like, "Oh my god, I loved what you did with this character in this chapter." And that like electrifying moment was just like, "Oh god, this is really addictive." And so I'll always like, the readers are the number one priority to me. And like I recently had this DM from someone who had used the quotes from Our Infinite Fates in their wedding vows, and I was just like,
Oh
oh
my
my
God.
god, I'm like a part of your like life story forever now. Like, how powerful is that? And so sometimes it makes you seem like a bit of a narcissist when you're like, no, I want to be read, I want fans. But it's like, it's really like there's this real magic to that, like someone else bearing witness to your imagination. And so yeah, it means so much to me, both on social media and the people who come out to see you, who write you an email to let you know like what the story meant to them. And so many people start these like emails and these DMs with like, "I'm so sorry to bother you. You must get this all the time." And you're like, "Are you joking? Like, you're complimenting my life's work. Like,
Yeah.
why would you?"
I've always thought that, like, I have no ambition to be an author, but I've always thought if I wrote something, I think it would mean more to me than like being as far as sales go, being like a bestseller. It would mean way more to me to have my book shelved more times on Goodreads or something. Like to just know that people had read it. Like I would want to be read. I think that's normal.
And it's that feeling of like having someone like, and this is why I've always wanted to do series, like someone kind of like hanging on your every word and desperate to know what happens next in the story that's in your head. It's a really strange kind of power. And I think if you were a kid that grew up like pretty powerless, like I lived in a really small town in the north of England, like nobody really like pushed for anything. There was no like, it was just not in the culture. And it was suddenly like, again, this makes me sound like a narcissist or like some corrupt drunk king or something. But I'm like, I love the power.
I love it. I think it makes perfect sense.
Well, and it's so inspiring too for all the people who feel like they come from a small town somewhere, or they come from a, maybe not a well-to-do family. And it's just like, all right, well, if you have a dream, you can literally get up and move when you're old enough, and you can do these really big things that you've dreamed of, but you can also be like peddling stories in your cafeteria, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
The sales girl in you. Oh my God.
I love it. Hustling at 9 years old off the school computers. Loved it. Well, talk to us a little bit about your writing rituals.
So I've been lucky enough to be a full-time author for 2 years. So since I got the Our Infinite Fates deal, like the whole time before that, pretty much I was working. I was a journalist, as I mentioned, and then I worked in sales and marketing for a creative writing magazine. So I was like adjacent to the publishing industry. And back then, I was pretty much able to just write anywhere, anytime. I could drop anything. As soon as I had like a spare 5 minutes, I was able to write. And I would write on my lunch hour. I would write like on the morning commute. I would write at my desk. I worked in digital marketing and I like fully automated my own job without my boss knowing. Like she thought I was like hustling so hard. I'm like, babe, I work for 20 minutes a day and the rest of the time I'm writing at my desk.
Oh my gosh.
She was 70. She didn't understand the internet. I was like, oh, there are fully like, there's software that can do that. I'll just set it up, not tell her. So yeah, I used to be able to write anywhere. I've gotten not a bit more precious. I mean, I'm still pretty good at like, I can still write in my notes app. I can still write on public transport, all of that. I am a bit more like, I ideally would like some space around me. I like to, whenever I'm working on a project and I have like another book that's really like a touchstone for the project, I like to have that with me, and I'll like read a few paragraphs or a few chapters to kind of get me in the mood. I need good coffee. This is the one non-negotiable. I'm a coffee snob, a coffee addict. There just needs to be coffee. I like to have they're not here, my big noise cancelling headphones, and some epic fantasy scores playing. That's my ideal writing setup.
Mm,
Oh,
that sounds
like a
great.
vibe. Oh my gosh. Oh.
The writing to music, I think it's fascinating the more people I talk to who do get these like story downloads, let's say, that you can like write into your voice app or write into your notes app, like wherever you are, like you just have to get it recorded
Mhm.
somehow. Like
Yeah.
I do always picture it like very like in a movie or something, like sitting down to the typewriter and you like write at your desk. Like that's how I picture it. But I know like for the creatives, the geniuses that you are, it's just like just whatever it takes to get it out of here.
Yeah.
Like I'll write it on a napkin, doesn't matter.
Exactly. And I think like I always want to mention A, my kid, and when I had him, and B, the day job, because I think a lot of people sometimes will be like, I really want to write a book, but my life circumstances aren't necessarily perfect. I have young children, I have a demanding day job. Like, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's going to be so much harder for you than it would be for someone who just, could write all day, but it isn't impossible. Like you
Right.
just, if you care about the story enough, like you can make it work.
Ugh, I
Yeah,
love
and then I
that.
feel like you get to this place where you are now, where like you can have choices. Nothing lasts forever. The newborn phase doesn't last forever. So
Mhm.
like learn to do it in those times, and then you'll really appreciate the times that you do get to
So
have uninterrupted work time.
And then they're at school, and you're like, what do you mean I get all these uninterrupted hours where someone else is just like,
Oh, our kids go
Amazing.
back to school in like 2 weeks, and me and Maddie are like, wow, remember when we worked without 5 children around us? Wow.
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 Yeah, the summer has been humbling. Let's put it that way.
And they're
But
like the best and most well-behaved kids in the
so
universe, and it
wonderful.
still is, it's just the juggling game. But again, if you want to do it, you will find the time, you will find a way, make a way. I kind of would love to hear you projecting into your future. This is my favorite question to ask at the end of every podcast. If you could go into a portal right now and open the door on the other side and you're walking into your future 10 years from now and your life is exactly how you want it to be, what does it look like?
It's such a, like, as soon as you're a parent, it's such an emotional question because you're like, "Oh my god, my kid will be 15." Like, I can't that's I can't stomach that. He won't want to cuddle me anymore.
I know.
Um, I think, like, and I don't say this to be kind of like trite, like I genuinely mean this. If it looked basically exactly how my life is right now, I'd be so happy. Like, I feel like I've worked so hard. Like, it took 12 years to get to this point where I'm like, I'm writing full time. People are reading my books. Sure, I'm not Brandon Sanderson, but enough, like, people are reading my books and loving them that, like, publishers keep buying more from me. And if I can just keep doing that, if I can keep, doing fun travel for work and meeting readers, and if I can keep this feeling of, like, it's like a real sense of, like, childlike wonder that I feel when I'm writing fantasy. And I think I was so in love with fantasy when I was a kid. I was that kid who was like, if I just find the right wardrobe, if I find the right brick in the wall, if I find the right toadstool, I will find magic. And again, like I say, in my teenage years, that went away for a while. And then I rediscovered it in my 20s. And I just, like, never want to lose that, for one. But B, I want to be one, B, you know what I mean? I, al- I also want to give that to other people. Like, that's the thing that I want to keep doing, is giving readers, like, a world to escape into, a story that they feel seen by. Like, it all sounds very, wishy-washy. There's nothing concrete. There's no, I always wanted to hit the New York Times. I really did. Like, that was my big, like, it seemed like winning the Olympics or, like, winning an Oscar or whatever. I just had this sense that I wanted to hit the NYT. And I kind of feel a sense of, like, peace now that that's happened. I'm like, okay, I did it. Even if it never happens again, you get to say that shit forever. And now I'm like, okay, let's just relax and, like, tell the stories.
Yeah.
So
Would there be a TV or movie adaptation maybe in the 10-year portal?
I have always said I'd rather have no adaptation than a bad one. So
That's
I
fair.
think it would have to be, the right team. Silvercloak is under option, so fingers crossed. Our Infinite Fates, I think it would be a very difficult project to adapt, just in terms of the fact that it spans 1,000 years, for one. Like, that's a crazy budget. You would need new actors and actresses to play them in each life.
I think that would
And
be difficult to for the viewer to attach to them. Yeah.
right, exactly. And then the ending is just very controversial with TV producers. They're like, would you rewrite the ending though, so we could do another season? I'm like, no, babe. The ending is the ending. You can make a movie or you can make a limited series, but, like, I'm not changing the story. So
Yeah.
adaptations, I feel, so I'm actually very close friends with V.E. Schwab, and she always says, like, she views adaptations as the icing on the cake or the cherry on the cake, but not the cake itself.
Yeah.
And so if I get one, amazing, great. Can you imagine sitting down and turning on Netflix and it's, like, your show? Like, no, stop it. That's insane. But if it doesn't happen, I won't feel like it's something that I've not achieved,
Mm.
or something that's, like, missing from my career.
Yeah, and I would never want my favorite artists and authors to limit their creativity to see if it's, like, feasible for screen.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I
Don't limit
want you to
yourself.
dream as big and build these crazy worlds. Like, who on earth is ever going to attempt to adapt the Stormlight Archive? Probably no
Right.
one. Like, the scale is so huge, but, like, I would never in a million years have wanted Brandon Sanderson to limit his scope for that world
Yeah.
just so that it could be adapted. Like, no, thank you.
That's why you choose to write books, right? Because there is no upper limit. There are no limitations. There are no costume departments, budgets, that you can do anything. And that is why, like, I actually did a screenwriting master's, and I soon realized, I was like, oh, this isn't as fun. Like, because people are going to be like, what would the budget for this be? I'm like, come on, have some imagination. I don't know.
We'll figure it out. Be optimistic.
We'll invent a magic currency for the project. It's fine.
Well, Laura, we want everybody who's watching this or listening to this podcast to know where to find you. So, where would be the best place for people to get your books, but also follow you on social media?
It's so funny whenever authors are like, my book is going to be available in all good bookstores. I'm like, you're basically saying that if a store doesn't stock your book, it's bad, and it's the store. Basically, from the 29th of July, I'm not sure exactly when this is going to air, but the 29th of July is the US release date for Silvercloak. That's publishing as LK Stephen. That will be everywhere. There are still some signed copies available through Barnes and Noble. And yeah, my other book, Our Infinite Fates, that is still widely available. We have some like Owl Crate editions. We have some B&N editions still. So in all good bookshops. If you want to find me online, I'm just Laura Stephen on Instagram. That's the one. And on TikTok, I'm author Laura Stephen because someone else beat me to it. And even though I keep messaging the person who has Laura Stephen, she's ignoring me. So
No. Author Laura Stephen. Yeah, we will put all of Laura's links in the show notes page. So thank you so much, Laura, for taking time on your crazy travel day at the beginning of your tour to talk to us, especially last minute. It means so much to us. We are so excited to read Silvercloak. We are going to be sending you an email immediately once we've received it and be like, we're starting right now. So we're so excited to chat with you all about it when we get it. And we're just so grateful to you to have taken the time.
I just want to say thank you to you guys so much as well, not just for like having me on the show, obviously, but for everything you do. I think it is so important, and I wonder how different my teenage years would have been if I had something like TikTok and something like you guys, like openly loving fantasy, openly like talking about it, having these people on the other side of the screen that felt like my like friends that we were just talking about fantasy. I think it's so powerful and so meaningful and so impactful to so many people, and just keep doing it because you're incredible.
Oh, Laura, jeez.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying those sweet things.
We just feel so lucky to be able to read books for our job. Like, it's the best thing ever. Like, pinch us, please. Like, we write nothing. We build and create nothing. We just get to read these amazing books and talk about them, which we would do anyways.
Yeah.
So it's the best. Okay, well, everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening. And definitely be sure to pick up Silvercloak on July 29th. And we will have all of Laura's links in the show notes if you want to go follow her for future projects and keep up with the trilogy as it comes out. And we will see you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I bet we'd be good together if I could just get